Framed, Part 5, A. 8th of April. Cars today. Land Rover, Mr. Morgan. Blue Montego Estate, Mrs. Porty. Came with the papers and was tempted by the coffee. Said she would come back for one later. Fiat Multipla, Mr. Arthur from the newspaper. Full tank, latte. 21 white combi vans. Red Ford car, Miss Stannard. Stopped for a chocolate and ended up buying a hot chocolate. Blue Lexus, Mr. Choi. Stopped for petrol, didn't want coffee. Green Daihatsu Copen, Mrs. Egerton. Came in to look at the coffee machine. Said she didn't like the look of it. Asked for a cup of tea. We don't do teas. Tom did one for a justice once. Vauxhall Astra Estate 1.9 CDTI, Mr. Davis. First visit to shop. Potential new customer. Weather, wet locally. Sunny on higher ground. Note, sometimes sunshine is nearer than you think. That same evening, Dad came back from the cash and carry with coffee filters, paper cups, shoe polish, because that man does not keep his shoes like that without polishing them, and a plug for the Gadget. Mum came back from the Snowdonia Mountain Rescue Charity Shop with a book called Coffee Cavalcade, 20p, which told you how to make all kinds of different coffee, and geniusly, a BMW M5 owner's manual. No, not that we want his lovely car to pack up, she said, but it's as well to be prepared. Dad took that for himself and gave the coffee book to Tom, saying, "Get reading that then, your career in catering is just about to begin." Tom said thanks a lot and rang his mum to tell her about it. FT, by the way, is short for the Financial Times. Next morning we waited ages, but the shiny man didn't come. Only Mr. Arthur from the paper in his Fiat Multipla, top speed 109 miles per hour, which was interesting for me. I've always wanted to see a Fiat Multipla up close because I know it's got 3 seats in the front, which is unusual. Also, with its snub bonnet and widely spaced lamps, it actually looks like a turtle. Mr. Arthur is the editor of the Mannered Month, our local newspaper. It used to be called the Mannered Week, but there isn't enough news in Mannered to fill the newspaper every week. That's because most news is crime, said Minnie, and Mannered is sadly lacking in crime. Don't know about sadly, said Dad. You'd like more crime, wouldn't you, Mr. Arthur? Something to write about. I was going to write about these visitors, said Mr. Arthur, but there's nothing to write, except they're here, and everyone knows that already. I'm going to have to write about you, Dylan. At first I thought he was joking, but he really did want to write about me. Being the only boy left in Mannered, he said. Having no one to play footy with, that must be interesting. I wasn't sure it was that interesting, actually. Dad said, I play footy with him, which wasn't strictly true. If you're looking for something to write about, why not the absence of a sign for Mannered on the A496? The sign is not news priority, Mr. Hughes, said Mr. Arthur. Everyone who wants to know about the sign already knows. A boy who has no one to play footy with, though, that is a story. I said, I'll be able to play with Max as soon as he's old enough. He's nearly 1. So that'll be 6 years till you get a game. He wrote something in his notebook. Well, there's my headline. Now I'll get my photo. He pulled out his camera and straight away, like magic, Marie was standing next to me. You can't take a picture of him looking like that, she said. He hasn't even brushed his hair. When they have their photo taken for the newspapers, they spend hours in makeup and choosing clothes and... Yeah, but I've got to be in Transwined by lunchtime. It won't take long, said Marie. Tom will fix you a coffee, won't he, Tom? Oh yes, said Tom. What would you like? Cappuccino? Espresso? Honestly, no, I've got a funeral to get to see. Americano? Mocha? Mochaccino? Really, Tom, thanks all the same. Please, pleaded Marie. At least let me brush his hair. All right, I'll have a coffee, thanks. A normal coffee with milk in. Latte it is then, said Tom. And I'll have an espresso, Tom, said Dad. Marie dragged me inside and up to the bedroom she shares with Minnie, and then she started brushing her own hair. I thought I was one who needed my hair brushing. I'm going to be in this picture too, aren't I? You want your sister in the picture, don't you? She brushed her hair for about 100 years, and then she started brushing her face with this little thing of blusher. Every now and then she'd look at me and say, "Hurry up then." It was quite interesting looking around the girls' room. I'm not normally allowed in there, see. One wall was nearly covered in tiny pictures. They're from the Be Lovely page in Closer magazine, she said. There's a beauty tip there for every part of the body. Eyes, teeth, fingernails, toenails, every detail of the female body. It was quite interesting when you were close up. When you stepped back it became even more interesting. She'd arranged all these cuttings into the shape of a woman. There on the wall. Presentation skills, see? That's what she's got. When she finished, she made me take a photo with a Polaroid camera. What for? So I can see how I look. Look in the mirror. You look different in photos, she said. The camera adds £5. When we got back down, Marie said, "Sorry to have kept you waiting, Mr. Arthur," and did him a smile the size of a Mercedes radiator. "That's all right," said Mr. Arthur. "Worth every minute." He took a picture. "Do another one now," said Marie. "Side on." She stood side on with her hand on her hip. In the end, she made him take about 1,000,000 pictures of her standing in various poses until he said, "I've really got to run. The funeral will be over." Marie wanted to know when it would be in the paper and made him promise to send her copies of the prints. He sent her a really nice one with her hair and teeth shining about a week later. It completely made up for the fact that he cut her off the picture on the front page of the paper. It was just me standing by a petrol pump with a football under my arm and the heading, "The Loneliest Boy in Wales." By the way, the Fiat Multipla does have 3 seats in the front row. Disappointingly, the driver's seat is in a normal place. If it had been in the middle, that would have been completely beastie. Tom had made Mr. Arthur his latte and Dad his espresso. He thought the machine was broken because it only made a thimble full of espresso. Tom kept pressing the button until he filled a mug, and Dad drank it. He was quite jumpy after that. He told me and Minnie to go to school. "But we want to see the shiny man." "Yeah, the shiny man, where is he? Has he fled the country?" "Yeah, he's probably fled the country, and left us with pink newspaper and 2 tons of coffee." He was speaking really fast. It was a bit concerning, really. Mum said, "Dad, the coffee is making you edgy. Go and have a drink of water." No, I'm going to take the paper up to him. Customer service, that's what it's all about. Dylan, get in the car." "But you told me to go to school." "No, I want you to come with me. He's taken to you. We'll take up his newspaper and a cappuccino. That's what customer relations is all about, isn't it? Going the extra mile." Minnie said she was coming too. Mam told Dad that it was all daft to go all the way up the mountain with 1 cup of coffee. It didn't make economic sense. And anyway, it would be cold when he got there. When Dad replied, he was just talking so fast no one understood a word. He just went outside and climbed into the Mini Cooper. Minnie said, "Can I get in the front since the car is named after me?" Dad said, "Yes." I said, "But it's the oldest in the front. I should be in the front." Dad said, "Yes," again. His mind wasn't on it. I shoved past Minnie and strapped myself into the front seat. The interior was surprisingly luxurious, with lots of faux walnut and the smell of leather. It was also surprisingly small. I felt like an egg in an egg box. I said, "Are you sure we should be going up the mountain in this? I mean, how big is the engine?" "If you don't like it," said Dad, "get in the back." I didn't, but I should have. Every time there was a hole in the road, we bounced out of it like a football. One time we spun around completely. Dad seemed to be pure delighted with this. "It's just like the Italian job," he yelled. I said, "What's the Italian job?" trying to start a conversation that would take my mind off the possibility that we might eventually bounce off the mountain completely. "You know, the Italian job. A group of criminals does a big robbery in Milan, or is it Turin? One of those places anyway. And they get away by stopping all the traffic. They cause this big traffic jam, they get stuck, and they get away in Mini Coopers, because the Mini can drive down steps and through underpasses and drain pipes and everything. Brilliant." Minnie leaned forward, which was pretty brave of her. "How much did they get away with?" she said. "Millions. It was a bullion. They nicked a bullion." "Gold bullion? A big pile of it, tons of it. And they got away with it?" "Yeah, well, sort of. You'd have to see it. Michael Caine was in it." "Oh," said Minnie, disappointed. "It was a film. I thought you meant it was a proper robbery." You can't often see the top of the mountain from Manad because the top is usually covered in cloud. So is the middle. So is the bottom a lot of the time. Sometimes the cloud in Manad is so low you have to walk through it to get to the upstairs toilet. I know it sounds exciting, driving through clouds, but it's actually like driving through lots of dirty grey dishcloths. We were driving through grey so long we began to feel we were turning grey ourselves. A little white lamb suddenly jumped out in front of the car. Dad braked and parked the horn, and the lamb ran off. Typically it ran off straight ahead, down the middle of the road, so we had to stay behind it. As Minnie said in her letter to Gumby, we drove at lamb speed through the murky aeroplanet dishcloth for what seemed like a lifetime, until all at once we were out, above the clouds, on the upper slopes of Manad Mountain. And guess what? It was sunny. It had been raining more or less non-stop in Manad since February, so driving in the sun was like, well, imagine if you opened a cupboard in your kitchen and found a beach. Dad wound down the windows. The daft lamb ran back into the cloud. After all that grey, the green of the grass and the white of the lamb seemed like the brightest colours you'd ever seen. Even the slate didn't look grey anymore. It was blue-black and silvery, like an old Mercedes with a new wax finish. Out of the back window, all you could see was this dirty, thick duvet of clouds stuffed into the valley, with Blaino Mountain sticking up out of it in the distance. The road ahead was just like a dribble of tarmac with grass growing down the middle of it, like a really long Mohican. You could see the old shepherd's hut off to the left. He's got to be in there, said Dad. There's nowhere else. He wasn't talking so fast now. As we got nearer, we could see two men in orange jackets. One of them was on a quad bike. I was just getting excited when Dad stopped the car. What? Look, there was a barbed wire fence going straight across the road and over the hillside. They fenced off the whole top of the mountain. We all got out of the car and looked over the fence. The man on the quad bike drove over. It seemed to take ages for him to get to us, and then he didn't get off his bike or take off his hard hat. He said, "Can I help you?" in a voice that said he wouldn't help you if you were hanging off a cliff. "Nice morning," said Dad. "We brought Lester his paper and his coffee," I said, holding it up. "Pass them over, I'll see he gets them." "Oh, but the coffee will go cold." "I'll see he gets it." "This fence," said Minnie. "It's a temporary structure. We apologise for the inconvenience. It will be removed once we secure the site." "What site's that then?" said Dad. "Our site," said the man in orange. Then he put the FT on his seat and the cappuccino into a handy drinks holder just under the handlebars, and then he was gone. Minnie said, "Well, there's a criminal headquarters if I ever saw one." She was pointing at two shapes next to the old hut. You couldn't see them all at first because they were the same colour as the grass and the stones, but if you kept looking, you could make out two domes, one on each side of the hut. They were like big tents, but not flappy or flimsy at all. They were made of something hard, like two big shells. We watched the man in the hard hat tootle up to one of the domes on his quad bike and then go inside. I said, "The Technodrome," because that's what it looked like. In case you don't know, the Technodrome is the headquarters of the Turtles' arch enemy, Arkosaki, known as Shredder. It's a big, round, heavily armed metal ball with rooms inside. It's like a building that rolls, only this one probably didn't roll. Dad and Minnie didn't know what the Technodrome was, so they didn't say anything about it. Dad was just looking back down the valley and then up at the sky. After a while, Minnie started fretting about going to school. The next part of this chapter is in part B.